Hey, so we're going to start a new thing today, which I'm going to start calling Three Things. Three Things? As a kind of series that we do on songs because, I asked for requests on videos to make, and that guy Phil said analysis of family business. And I'd love to do an analysis of family business, but that's what the podcast is for, right? Doing the line by line deep dive of the narrative and thematics. We do that in the podcast on the YouTube channel. I don't quite want to do the same overlapping content, so I was thinking, how can I talk about family business without double dipping into the podcast? So Three Things is just going to be the three things that stand out to me about a song, kind of three most interesting aspects of it. They get me thinking, what an interesting song. So just that. It's not going to be dumb shit like, one, the song was made in 2005. Two, it was the first time Kid Cudi and Kanye met. Three, it sounds good. No. So let's get into the three things about family business to showcase what this is going to be. And then that way you can start requesting other songs to put into this series. And then they'll all be under a playlist called Three Things. So family business. The first thing, and this is just to get into some context about the song and how Kanye would develop as an artist and what he does as an artist, is Terry Torrey's quote. I actually don't know how you say her name. I should look that up, but it looks like Terry Torrey, but it looks like it could be trying to make the word territory. I don't know. Terry. So Terry actually sings on the song and was a writer on the song. And she has this quote, Kanye was like, I need this to be about real life family. I'm the oldest of 48 grandkids on my mom's side, and I'm in the middle of 36 grandkids on my father's side. So when he said, I need material, because remember, Kanye is an only child and was kind of isolated from his family a lot as a child, being in China for a little bit, spending summers in Atlanta with his father. It was a little harder for him, at least from what I'm aware, to spend as much time with his family as maybe somebody that's the oldest of 48 grandkids. I need material. I was like, I got plenty of material. Terry went on to tell Kanye about taking baths with her cousins, sleeping six in a bed, and her auntie who is known for bad cooking. In fact, at the end, when Kanye says, let's get Stevie out of jail, he's actually referring to Terry's godbrother. So one of the most interesting things to me about this song is that a lot of people, I think to this day, view it as a very vulnerable, insightful Kanye song. Like you hear this song and you think you're getting Kanye's own experiences and Kanye's own relationships and Kanye's kind of memoirs. But even back here, when College Dropout seemed to be Kanye at his most, real rather than his most hyperbolic and fictional, he was appropriating and fictionalizing and hyperbolizing stories. So how much in this second verse is actually anything that Kanye experienced, right? How much in the first verse is actually anything Kanye experienced? How much in this last verse? I mean, even the end of the song, Let's Get Stevie Out of Jail, which we think is Kanye, maybe saying something or including something for his own family, just isn't about him or his own family at all. So I think having that in mind, which is kind of more of an obvious thing as it's right here at the beginning of the Genius page, but I think it recontextualizes the song a bit, at least in people's mind, and makes it feel a bit more distant, where before it felt like this, you were getting closer to Kanye. Right? Like it was Hey Mama and Family Business were these insightful Kanye songs. Same with Roses. And now it's, Hey Mama and Roses, and maybe not so much Family Business. But Kanye does this throughout his discography. He takes real world details that he's experienced, other people have experienced, and meshes them together into something a little bit more real than reality. That little bit of hyper reality, hyperbole that started even way back here and progressed to Graduation before coming full force on 808s and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy all the way up through Yay. And that's something that a lot of writers do. I mean, all of my fiction writing is details from other people's lives, details from my own life, observations, and just putting them through my perspective and creating a story out of that. It's something that Kanye does on his albums with the Yeezus character. That's not Kanye on Sight. That's this character that he's using to get at things that he's felt or things that he's seen people experience. So even back here, when he seemed like he was at his most real, still having his guard up a little bit. So first interesting thing. Number 2, the structure of the song. So the first verse is very focused on a singular relationship dynamic, right? And that's Kanye, or the Kanye character on the song, thinking about his cousin that's locked down. And the whole verse is just in that perspective, dealing with the cousin. He's thinking about the cousin here when talking about the grandma. He's thinking about the cousin at Thanksgiving and covering his face. He made the cousin a plate and he brings it to the cousin in jail. And even here in these last 4 lines, he's talking about the cousin. Who knew I'd have to look at you through glass? And look, you tell me you ain't did it, then you ain't did it. So again, it might be something that people know. Of course, that verse is about the cousin. Who else is it about? But I think it's also something that kind of goes over your head as you listen to the song. I mean, we listened to the song, or I did, like 100 times between 2004 and when we started the podcast in 2016 or 2015. And I never really thought about this verse being specifically entirely about the cousin. But he moves away from that in the second verse and zooms out just a little bit more. So we go from the one dynamic of talking about the cousin to zooming out a little bit to talk about more of the family overall. So we get, Grandma, Abby, Grammy picture, Abby, some of the cousins, Aunt Ruth. It's just more characters introduced. You get a kaleidoscope look at the family and these memories that come up that aren't Kanye's. And when you get to verse 3, it goes beyond family. So we went from the most micro to a middle ground to something much larger, where he's just saying that everybody from Chicago, that's my family. It's not even about blood at this point. It's about, city, where you're from, who you came up with. Like, my guys ain't my guys, they my family. And then we get the collapse from this larger context of Chicago and my friends are family back to the family itself, which is such a strange third verse because he even gets into, creativity. I woke up early this morning with a new state of mind, a creative way to rhyme without using knives and guns. That it's going to talk about something more than kind of this gangster talk and gangster life. Something more positive, something more helpful and hopeful. And we get the hook at the end about diamond rings don't mean a thing. And, the Mercedes, a whole lot of money. None of those things really matter. Like, what you want is mommy and daddy to please stop fighting and Stevie out of jail. But I just like how Kanye starts on the one level and starts zooming out to a larger context and then collapses it all together and brings it all back around. And that's something that he does on All Falls Down, and something that kind of defines a lot of how he was working in the college dropout era, where he was looking more at what each verse was doing and building a narrative in each verse and stringing those together, much more so than the specific narrative of the song or even the narrative of the album. When we get to Late Registration, he starts getting more into the song narrative, like Gold Digger, right? the verses in that all play into the same narrative rather than being their own little sections. And then by the time you get to Graduation, all the songs are the narrative of the album. So it's just cool to see him escalate from kind of the simplest way of doing narrative to a next level of difficulty, to the next level of difficulty, and then has just kept going and doing more and more on the album level of narrative. So yes, that's number 2. And then number 3 is Kanye always uses samples and lyrical interpolations for thematic intent. It's never that he's just using a sample because that sample sounds great. If you look at the lyrics of the sample, they always somehow tie back to the theme. So he manages to mix form and function in the way that it's not just that the song sounds good, but the song is actually adding context to what's going on. And he did that with All Falls Down, and he does it on Ye with, what was it, Ghost Town. Even all the way to Ghost Town, he's managing ways to do that. And No Mistakes. No Mistakes has a Slick Rick sample that's about stop being immature and doing these shitty things and grow up and be a man. And that's what No Mistakes is about. Like stopping doing the shitty things that have been causing problems in your life, like the TMZ incident, and start acting like a man because people are depending on you. So here, Kanye doesn't sample, but he interpolates Ambitions as a Writer by Tupac and All That I Got Is You by Ghostface Killer. And if you look at the Tupac, Ambitions as a Writer, it comes from the line, I can't deny it, I'm a straight rider. But when we get together, be electric sliding. So he sets this juxtaposition between the two. That he knows that he's a writer and all that that entails. He's this rapper in the rap game. But when he's back with his family, he's doing the silly old electric slide that, you know, you wouldn't think of somebody like Tupac doing. That any of these other harder, more gangster-like rappers, they wouldn't be caught dead doing the electric slide. So he's at once announcing his clout, but also showing that silliness and vulnerability. And if you look at the Tupac lyrics, it's this essay, not even an essay, it's a declaration of who Tupac is post-prison. This was the first song he recorded getting out of prison. And he went right from the airport to the studio and recorded it that night. So this was really like a reintroduction of Tupac to the world and started him into this harder Death Row Records phase of Tupac that came to kind of define the view of rap in the 90s between Tupac and Biggie going wild and the East Coast, West Coast beef. And we know that Tupac was kind of this more jovial, like Tupac may have liked to do the electric slide because he just liked to have a good time. But he was also putting forth this perception of himself. And this is a very like, don't fuck with me song. I'll fuck you up. And people should respect me because they're scared of me. Just everything that you would expect from that style of rap. And then you also have the Ghostface Killer, All I Got Is You. And that interpolation comes back here. Fit 3 in the bed if it's 6 of y'all. I'm talking about 3 by the head and 3 by the leg. But you ain't have to tell my girl I used to pee in the bed. Here we have roaches everywhere, cousins and aunts was there, 4 in the bed, 2 at the foot, 2 at the head. I didn't like to sleep with John John, he peed the bed. And while it's a endearing anecdote from Ghostface Killah, the song itself is really sad. It's a portrait of how he grew up, and there are highlights, but it's also very raw and very, like, he talks about having to go get food, and there was days I had to go to Tech's house with a note stating, "Gloria, can I borrow some food? I'm dead broke." So embarrassing I couldn't stand to knock on their door. My friends might be laughing. I spent stamps in stores. Like, really different in tone overall than Family Business. So you have one song that's this gangster, braggadocio, bravado personality with Tupac, contrasted by the vulnerability and starkness that's part of Ghostface Killah's song. And then in the middle of that, you have Kanye coming in and capturing a little bit of both attitudes. There's some of the sadness with the jail and, mom and dad are fighting and Uncle Ray and Aunt Sheila always having this fighting going back and forth, but not to the level that Ghostface describes. And there's still some attitude that Kanye tries to portray, but, he's being goofy in a lot of the lines of the song, even talking about himself peeing the bed. So he's not exactly doing what Tupac did. And then he straight up says, I woke up early this morning with a new state of mind, a creative way to rhyme without using knives and guns. So it's like he's aware of his predecessors in Tupac and Ghostface and what they were doing, and commenting on the fact that this is him taking those kinds of songs that these guys did and doing something different with it, finding a creative way to rhyme without using knives and guns, and not quite getting as bleak as Ghostface got, and making a song that people can embrace and rally around and feel good about, that warmth and just that positive family vibe. And he succeeded. This is still a song that I think a lot of people point to as positive Kanye, like feel-good Kanye, and that they still put on when they want to think about family, connect with family. So Kanye did his thing and succeeded. So that's the third most interesting thing to me about this track. And that does it for the first one of these. Hopefully the others are shorter, or maybe this is a good length. But if you want to hear more or have a specific song in mind, leave a comment down wherever, and I'll get to it soon. And if you want to support the show, I'm really happy that we're almost to the 1,000 subscriber goal. I think we're at 890 right now, which is thrilling because just last week we were at 681. So thank you to all the longtime subscribers, the new subscribers, and you who just hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Thank you. And if you have any other topics you want me to make a video about, I'll do that. And look forward to the Yandi video coming out either Saturday, if the album drops Saturday, or Sunday, if it drops Sunday, or at least in the aftermath of the Saturday Night Live performance. Until then,